I think MJF growing up a CM Punk fan was such a big part of that we got to tell that
What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the Rant Review Pro Wrestling, and yeah, we're gonna do it. We're gonna review AEW Double or Nothing 2022. Probably gonna go down as one of the more historic pay-per-views in the history of AEW. Definitely a sea change going on within the company, obviously with the big controversy about MJF and what was going on in the main event and the possible interaction with some New Japan stars. But before we get into that, I want to remind you guys, this being YouTube, that they love their YouTube algorithm. That algorithm, if you hit that like button, lets other wrestling fans know about this video so they can watch this video, and maybe you can comment and hopefully politely down in the comment box below. But thank you guys for checking out the channel, and let's talk about Double or Nothing 2022. I will have to say, first off, on the buy-in, okay, I'm won over now. I like Danhausen. I was not wild about this Danhausen character for the longest time, but the Hookhausen combination, I can dig it. That was a funny match with them against Tony Nese and Smart Mark Sterling, who wasn't going to have a very good night tonight. We're going to get into the show proper, and as many people suspected, and as the rumors have gone on, and I'll talk about that in an entirely different video as we find out more information as the week goes on. But MJF taking on Wardlow. Now, again, to really briefly talk about the backstory, MJF, one of the, well, probably the most watched person in AEW as far as the ratings are concerned. He was the best heel in the business. There's been all of this stuff of him and Tony Khan, the owner of AEW, about contracts and how much money that the WWE guys that were coming in are being paid. Of course, these are all rumors. Nothing's confirmed here, but this is the scuttlebutt in the wrestling community. So coming into the show, we had a fan fest the night before, which MJF did not show up at. And then there was all the speculation whether or not he was getting a red-eye flight back and leaving Vegas and not going to be at Double or Nothing, and how effed up would that be for Wardlow, how effed up it already was for all the fans who paid to see him at the Fan Fest and then had to get refunded because he no-showed. So now we don't know any official statements from the people in AEW yet, but it does seem that there's obviously fire to the smoke that we're seeing coming out of the camp. So that, again, I'll talk about that more in depth in a different video. But the concern was whether or not MJF was going to show up. It's the first match of the night. He takes his time coming out to the point where you're almost wondering, oh my God, is he? They're just playing his music and gonna swerve or something. But no, MJF came out. Wardlow had his postmodern Goldberg entrance, and the match wasn't much of anything back and forth. There are a lot of spots in this match that made me obviously think that they were writing MJF off. There you go. They were writing MJF off of AEW television. At one point, he's going for the diamond ring, and the referee and Wardlow see him doing it, and the referee slips the ring off of MJF's finger and puts it in his pocket. MJF never gets it back, and I was like, that's kind of an indication they got the ring off of him. Okay, so he's not going to take the ring with him. Wardlow powerbombs MJF literally 10 times and then gets the dominant pin. MJF is carried out on the stretcher with getting oxygen, even though whoever put the oxygen mask on him clearly doesn't know how they work. But that was the last scene of MJF being carted out. And in a weird way, if this is, and it probably is, the last time we see MJF in AEW for the near future, it is a fitting way for his character to go out. The whole storyline since the beginning was with Wardlow, and the whole storyline with Wardlow coming to its conclusion, and it winding up with Wardlow taking out MJF and then going on to bigger and better things. It is an interesting kind of a story there. A little bit of a passing of a torch story, but MJF did the job. He showed up. Thankfully, he did not disappoint any more fans than he already had. And again, we'll talk about that story in the future. The Young Bucks took on the Hardy Boys in one of the dream matches that we've seen before in other promotions. It's happened in Ring of Honor before, obviously, but this was the first time on big time pay-per-view, so it was noticeable though that Jeff Hardy is banged up, and the Hardys are not, they are. This isn't the 1990s Hardys. This is 40-something Hardys, and even with that, Jeff was still able to pull out a great performance. Matt was able to pull out, both Matts were able to pull out good performances. And of course, Nick Jackson overselling sometimes, but he is so athletic. He's just so good. And this match took a little bit of a sag in the middle, but then near the end, it really picked up the pace. It was really fun. There was even a Brandon Cutler chant at one time. And much like Tony Schiavone, I have no idea why any fans would be cheering for Brandon Cutler, but they were for 2 seconds. Which got Brandon Cutler a smack in the face from Nick Jackson. But the Hardys managed to pull this thing out. There were several times where it looked like the Bucks had just obliterated them, and the Hardys kept kicking out. But the Hardys did win the match, and they proved that they still got enough to take on the Young Bucks. And the Young Bucks are still Young Bucks, despite it seeming like they've been around forever. They're still very young guys, so... that was a pretty good tag team match. It was better. It was different than what I expected it to be, but it definitely was a great tag team match. Jade Cargill will defend the TBS Championship against Anna Jay, and this match started off a little rough, some of the early on moves in this match, but it did pick up the pace. They had to throw a lot of gimmicks in here, but this was, and Anna Jay said this in the promos, see, for some reason, Jade Cargill seems to have better matches with her. Even though Anna Jay's star is not as big as some of the other women in the division, she does wrestle decent matches with Jade Cargill, apparently. So there was a lot of stuff thrown in here. Smart Mark Sterling threw himself into it and almost cost Jade the match with a crutch spot. The baddies got involved. But Jade Cargill was just too much, obviously, for Anna Jay. Although there were a couple times where I was wondering if they were going to switch the TBS Championship, but no. Jade continues her undefeated streak. The baddies, they start beating up. And I do have to mention one big surprise that I wasn't seeing coming. Stokely Hathaway all of a sudden shows up, and I guess he's replacing Smart Mark Sterling, which I kind of like that combination a little bit better because Jade didn't respect Smart Mark, but she will respect Hathaway. After the match, we get a bit of a beatdown by the baddies. And then we get Chris Statlander coming out, which was a kind of a confrontation. The fans apparently really wanted to see Jade versus Chris Statlander. And then, of course, we get the big shock, as AEW tends to do. The artist formerly known as Ember Moon in NXT and WWE, making her AEW debut. Now back to her original ring name of Athena. Showing up, and that was a cool entrance. I was expecting her to be in the Owen tournament, but I'm not surprised that she showed up eventually in AEW, and she got in there, and this is a nice little trios combination they have here in AEW with Jade and the baddies against Statlander, Anna Jay, and of course the debuting Athena. Adam Cole Bay taking on Samoa Joe in the finals of the Owen Hart Tournament, and this was a slow-paced match. I would say they lost the crowd a little bit near the middle of the match, but Joe knew since this, and I remember the crowd was starting to chant for Mike Chioda or something like that, and then Joe kind of shut it down by kicking the match up into another gear, which is why he's such a great professional. But these two wrestled a decent match. It's not a great match, and this is kind of one of the things that when in New Japan, when they're leading towards singles matches on big shows, they'll have the guys in multi-man tag matches. This is one of the benefits of the multi-man tag match because the guys can get familiar with each other, and then by the time they get to the match, then they've got more of a familiarity, if I can say the word, together. But this is the first time Samoa Joe and Adam Cole have wrestled each other, and they didn't have any warm-up matches, and it was a little rough in some spots. But Adam Cole does pull out the win. Multiple super kicks to Samoa Joe's face, followed by the boom to get the pin, which, boy, that was a rough match to get through. But, again, not a bad match, but it probably could have been better if they had more time and were more familiar with each other. The House of Black taking on Death Triangle, a match that people have been waiting for a while. And this trios match was freaking fire, man. These people were flying all over the place. Buddy Murphy's amazing. Malachi Black is amazing. Pac, Phoenix. There's one spot where Buddy Matthews is set up in his powerbomb spot with Malachi Black. And Phoenix has kind of set them up there. And then he chops the legs out from underneath one of them to cause the powerbomb, which is a spot I have not seen before. And I thought it was pretty cool. I'm sure it's been done before somewhere, but that was the first time I've seen it or remember seeing it. I thought that was a pretty cool spot. A lot of great things happening in this match. This was probably one of the more energetic matches of the night, one of my favorites in the early part of the night. The match does end, however, when we get Julia Hart showing up just as Pac is about to put away Malachi Black. The lights go off. They come back up. Julia Hart's there. She's got her face painted and spews the black mist in the face of Pac, allowing Malachi Black to get the win. Julia Hart now, after the teases that I saw live at Dynamite a couple weeks ago, has fully crossed over to the dark side and is now part of the House of Black. Dr. Britt Baker, D.M.D, with one of the guitarists from Fozzy playing her to the ring, which I don't know if that guy was actually playing a guitar because he just looks like he was jumping around a lot. And I don't know much. I don't know how to play guitar, so it didn't look like it was real to me. But it may have been. I don't know. But she had that entrance, and then Ruby Soho completely went up there by actually finally. We knew this was coming eventually for her in AEW, but Rancid. They're live playing Ruby Soho to the ring to the song Ruby, Ruby, Ruby Soho. Oh! Okay, I'm not going to sing it anymore. I'm sorry. I'm not going to sing anymore. But yes, so Ruby Soho with Rancid, that's pretty cool. You know, I'm not a super huge punk guy, but I do like the Ramones and Rancid and stuff like that, which is just kind of more classic kind of rock to me, I guess. Whatever. Anyway, enough about music. The match, Ruby Soho and Britt Baker. Again, kind of like the Samoa Joe match of Adam Cole. They kind of lost the crowd a little bit in the middle, but then they pick it back up and they lose it a little, but they kept the crowd involved, even though it was a little bit of rough sailing there. And again, this is kind of the problem. This show's got 12 matches on it, so there is going to be some audience fatigue. But despite having the entrance and the Rancid and all of this stuff and doing it for the Hearts, Ruby Soho lost again. She lost to Britt Baker once again in a big match. With a spot that some people didn't pick up on, and I'm not surprised because the match happened over 25 years ago. But Bret Hart and Owen Hart in their match at WrestleMania 10 did the exact same finish that Britt Baker and Ruby Soho mirrored here in this match, which was a nice fitting touch given the fact that obviously this is the Owen Hart Memorial Tournament. So Britt Baker and now Adam Cole, they are now the power couple in AEW, both of them winning their respective men's and female tournaments for the Owen Hart Memorial Cup. And Martha Hart came out there. She's pretty daggone good at get to public speaking too, which was, she's very gracious. That was really like one of the first moments in AEW that I've seen that was like classy like that, because AEW is very punk rock as far as wrestling is concerned, compared to the more corporate style of WWE, which lends itself to these kind of pageantry kind of presentations. And Martha Hart, she's just such an elegant woman. She brought that out in this presentation. Cole and Baker got championship belts, and then there's the cup that will have their names on it, of course, going on into the future. That was really well done. Tony Khan did bring Martha Hart out, and I know some people don't like it when Tony Khan comes out. Yeah, he does it more than he said he was going to be doing it, but this is a classy. Again, he owns the company. This is a classy thing. This is a big deal. And the significance of the tournament actually did hit me once they got to the ceremony and presenting the belts and presenting the trophy. So congratulations to the power couple, the King and Queen of Hearts, the Bays, the Bay D.M.D, or the Bay, I don't know what you call them, Britt Baker, D.M.D, and Adam Cole, Bay, Queen and King of Hearts. The multi-man 6-man tag match, I was very worried about. That was besides the MJF Wardlow match. This is the other match I'm worried about because there are no likable people in this match except maybe Frankie Kazarian. So the Men of the Year, along with Paige VanZant, take on Ty Conti, Sammy Guevara, and Frankie Kazarian. And this match was more entertaining than I thought it was going to be. I would say VanZant was pretty good, average, this is her first time wrestling in a big match like this, a wrestling match. It reminds me of how Ronda Rousey was in her first couple of days when she was in WWE a couple years ago, and the moves didn't look quite right because she hadn't done them enough to kind of get in the rhythm of doing them, and the same thing with VanZant here. And that's just going to be time in the ring that's going to improve that. But they had some cool spots. I love, of course, the spot. Sammy does, as far as toxic as everybody thinks this couple is, Sammy Guevara has some of the most memorable spots from the past couple weeks. First, the ladder match spot, and then this spot here where Frankie is arguing with Ty, and all of a sudden, Sammy's going to super kick him and winds up hitting Ty in the face. And it was great. And it was wonderful. And that also came later on when everybody's lining up. The Men of the Year and VanZant are lining up to beat the crap out of him. And Ty Conti and Sammy are like, come on, Frankie. Frankie gets in the ring. And he's like, I'll screw both of you guys because they've been drawing the entire match. Frankie just left for them to get their butts kicked. And in the end, it was Scorpio Sky picking up the win. And this means that this feud is mercifully over. We will not have to see any more of this crew of people interacting together because it just doesn't work. As far as there's something just cringy about it. There's just one side is just very unlikable and the other side is just as unlikable. So it's a weird combination to do, but it's over now because Sammy and Frankie can no longer challenge Scorpio Sky for the TNT Championship. And again, I think this is kind of saying that again with the new championship belt that Scorpio Sky got too, that they're strapping this thing on the Scorpio Sky for at least like 4, 5, 6 months or whatever. And let's see what we get out of the TNT Championship now going forward. Kyle O'Reilly took on Darby Allin. This match was just like a last-minute tacked-on match, but it proved to be really, again, another of these brutal matches. And the combination of Darby and Kyle O'Reilly, which a lot of people say that Tony Khan is very high on Kyle O'Reilly, that in fact O'Reilly is rumored to have signed a 5-year contract with AEW. So this isn't a splash in the pan. They're going to be doing a lot with him, and you can see them already transitioning him. Yeah, he's part of Red Dragon with Bobby Fish, but they're giving Kyle O'Reilly a lot of singles match spotlight recently in AEW. But this was a fantastic match. It was a brutal match. The knee at the beginning of the match from Kyle O'Reilly and a reversal to Darby Allin, that was brutal, but that wasn't the worst spot in the match. Darby went to go do his dive, and I guess they were supposed to do the spot where O'Reilly was going to catch him and put him in the front face lock. But I guess O'Reilly didn't remember, or Darby tripped, or something happened, and Darby was aiming low and looked like he broke his neck. It literally looked like he broke his neck on the floor, and he was like lying, not moving for a good while. And my heart skipped a beat because I was like, oh shit, like he could have died. Like if he had like that kind of thing, like he could have died. That was very, very scary. When he started moving, I was like, all right, cool. Because I was really scared for a second just watching him lay there after that bump. But it wasn't at the end of it. Darby's still fighting, and he's still taking these crazy bumps here and there. He does a coffin drop off of the top rope onto the outside, through O'Reilly onto the ring apron. I'm just like, dude, Jesus Christ, man. But at the end, it was O'Reilly was able to beat down Darby Allin, get the win with a King Kong knee drop to the back of Darby's neck. And Kyle O'Reilly getting a big pay-per-view win, his first singles pay-per-view win, I do believe, in AEW. And again, like I said, the company seems to have big plans for O'Reilly going forward. Serena Deeb challenged Thunder Rosa for the AEW Women's Championship. This match was okay. Again, they have a tough spot to do. The performance was good in the ring, but I think the crowd lost a little bit of heat in this match. But Thunder Rosa does retain the championship. Again, it was a good match. I think you're going to get these where, you have all these matchups that are pretty good, and some of them aren't going to be as excellent as other ones and are going to kind of fall through the cracks, and that happens when you have a card with 12 matches on it like this. Then we get to this bit of insanity. The Anarchy in the Arena match. The Blackpool Combat Club, Eddie Kingston, Santana and Ortiz against the Jericho Appreciation Society, and from the jump, this was just crazy from starts to finish. They played basically John Moxley's Wild Thing through the first 5. They played almost the entire song. As all of these guys are just beating the crap out of each other all over the arena. Within 5 minutes, half of them were bleeding. Danielson's throwing people in the cameras. People are crashing through tables. Eddie Kingston is fighting up in the mezzanine, and he's got mustard all over people. There's people flying off of ladders. There's people going in storage, freight elevators. All this crazy stuff happened. And then probably something that's probably the most significant thing. Well, first off, I gotta say, there probably were well, not legitimately, but there probably were 5 attempted murders in this match. The biggest one, of course, coming when Eddie Kingston comes back to the ring after being in a freight elevator and everybody's down in the ring. Moxley's taking half the ring apart or whatever. Kingston comes down, covered in blood, stumbling to the ring, carrying a gas container like he's in the freaking Walking Dead or something. He gets to the ring, and he proceeds to pour gasoline on Chris Jericho and Bryan Danielson, who's trying to submit Jericho. Then he picks up a match. Danielson locks it because these guys don't like each other. So then you got Kingston and Danielson on the same side fighting each other. Moxley's trying to break it up. Jericho takes advantage of this, and eventually it winds up with Danielson basically passing out because Jericho and Jake Hager were putting on a combination of the Lion Tamer, and Hager was choking him with a belt. So that made Danielson pass out. Aubrey calls the match, and the Jericho Appreciation Society wins. We got a lot coming up now. We're going to have to see how this fallout's going to be between Eddie Kingston and Bryan Danielson. So let's keep an eye on that one in the future. The Tag Team Championships were on the line. Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy, the Jurassic Express, defending against Will Hobbs, powerhouse Will Hobbs. And, of course, the man, the myth, absolute Ricky Starks. What the hell is that anyway? Actually, whatever it is, it got over with the crowd in Vegas. They were eating up Ricky Starks in this match. They also were taking on in this triple threat match the team of Limitless Keith Lee, bask in his glory, and Swerve's house, Strickland. So this was another banger going out, stuff going all over the place. A little bit of a scare with Ricky Starks. There were a couple scares tonight. Darby Allin's was the worst, but Jeff Hardy had some scares. It scared me a couple times in their match. But Ricky Starks, we all know he had that big neck injury, and he took a kind of a nasty tumble. Fortunately, he rotated all the way through and didn't land on his neck, because I was thinking if he lands on his neck, that's not going to be good. But otherwise, there were some great moments where you get the big guys all getting together. Luchasaurus tried to chokeslam both Will Hobbs and Keith Lee. That wasn't happening. They reversed it on him and took him out. Those two bruisers went after each other, and they really played off of all the dichotomy of all of these guys in this match, all of them serving different purposes, hitting their spots at the right time. Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus do wind up retaining the championships. Christian Cage even got involved in this a little bit, but it was the tag champs retaining, which I was a little surprised by because I thought they'd give it to somebody else. So we'll see where that's going in the future over the next couple of weeks. Of course, we have another pay-per-view coming up next month for AEW, but we'll talk about that in a bit. And in the main event, it is the AEW champion, Hangman Adam Page, defending against CM Punk. The unfortunate thing about Page's pay-per-view matches is that they haven't kind of lived up. I mean, the problem with it is that you're following 4.5 hours, 11 matches, 12 matches in this case, and fans are exhausted. They've seen a lot, but the credit to the Las Vegas fans, those kids were just all into this, man. They were chanting away into every second of this match. CM Punk had some close calls. He tried to buckshot lariat twice and botched it both times. He made a comment after the match. I couldn't exactly hear what he said. He said something about it, but the announcers were recapping the match and the playthroughs. But there was some fun stuff in here. The big pinnacle of the match, though, was Hangman Page going for his moonsault outside the ring. He hits it, but jams his leg, and we kind of knew at that point this was going to carry on into the match. At one point, CM Punk's going for the go to sleep. They knock out the referee, which is surprisingly the first ref bump of the entire night. That doesn't really do anything except open the door up for the possibility of Page to use the AEW Championship to hit CM Punk. Now, again, there's a lot of Bret Hart and Owen Hart and Hart family stuff here. This is almost kind of a reference to WrestleMania 8 with Bret Hart and Roddy Piper. The same kind of thing happened. Referee went down. Piper, who was the champion, held the belt. He was holding I think it was a ring bell, and he was going to hit Hart, and then he had a change of heart and threw the bell away, tried to win the match, and then, of course, as always happens, no good deed goes unpunished in the world of pro wrestling. Of course, that means that you're going to lose the match. So we saw this with Sami Zayn back years ago in NXT when he had his Road to Redemption story, and the same thing happened to Hangman Page here. He throws the belt down, decides he's not going to do it, tries to go for the buckshot, jams his leg a little bit on entry, but CM Punk's there quick as a cat, gets him in to go to sleep. 1, 2, 3, and your new AEW World Champion is CM Punk. And he looked like he was really emotional about it. They didn't play off too much into this whole storyline. I think this is just going to be a future storyline with what Page said about the AEW locker room being against CM Punk. And again, Eddie Kingston brought that up. MJF brought that up in their feuds with CM Punk this year. So now that Punk is the champion, which is something that Page said he was defending against, now we got to see what that means. What kind of storylines are we orchestrating here? What seeds are we planting with all of these words? And now we get into the New Japan Pro Wrestling part of the night, which was nothing. I was fully. I mean, we had Jeff Cobb and the Great O'Khan on Dynamite, and I guess maybe that didn't work out so well because of the botch with Trent and the Great O'Khan. But I don't know. There wasn't there wasn't anything here. There was no appearance by anybody. The closest thing we got was Andrade El Idolo introducing Roosh as his new part. The whole Andrade Hardy faction thing, that's completely over. He's dismantled that. And now it looks like we're getting a Los Ingobernables de Elite in All Elite Wrestling, with Roosh being a new guy involved. Obviously, that would happen given the ROH thing. Andrade there. We got New Japan coming up. Well, obviously, hopefully this means that we're going to get something involving Naito and Los Ingobernables de Japón and Andre El Idolo and Roosh with the American version of, or the All Elite Wrestling version of Los Ingobernables. But that is the closest thing we got. There was no Kazuchika Okada, no Tanahashi, no Will Ospreay, no Jay White, no Bullet Club, no nothing. Nothing happened here. So with only 4 weeks to the Forbidden Door pay-per-view, and still keep in mind that I think about half of the AEW audience, and that might be generous, they don't know much about New Japan or New Japan stars outside of seeing Minoru Suzuki, and they like him, and a couple other guys came through, and yeah, but we had these guys come through last week, but there's no real integration. I was expecting to see something more, but as Gray Man Media pointed out on Twitter, and I appreciate this, I forgot the Best of Super Juniors final is coming up this week. So those guys have to be in Japan to set up Dominion that's coming up on next week on New Japan Pro Wrestling. So the guys, I didn't even think about that, but I looked at the schedule again and realized, oh shit, we're at the end of the Best of the Super Juniors tournament, and Dominion is coming up the next week. So that's probably I think that's probably more reason than anything else why those guys, there were no New Japan people on the show, and I didn't even think about it. So but they're going to have to do something with it in the weeks to come. I think it's going to start off slow next week, and then you got really like 3-4 weeks to kind of book reveal what the card is for the show, what the plan is for the show. There's got to be some sort of storylines tied into the show as well. So we're going to see what this whole Forbidden Door thing winds up being. But overall, I think the AEW Double or Nothing 2022, it is a show I'm going to remember. There's a lot of great stuff in here, just from top to bottom. I can't really say what my favorite match of the night was. I'm leaning towards the trios match was awesome. The match with the Hardys and the Young Bucks was pretty awesome. I did enjoy the tag team title match. There's a lot of stuff on the show to enjoy. So up and down, I say it was a good show. There was a little bit too many botches on this show. JR's commentary is pretty funny at times. So, the O'Reilly thing that he thinks about car auto parts and Kyle O'Reilly matches is just fast. I hope look, O'Reilly Auto Parts. I hope you guys are slipping Jim Ross a check or something, or getting him some free auto maintenance, because that dude is putting over O'Reilly Auto Parts more than the commercials do in my mind. So, but anyway, I enjoyed Double or Nothing. I want to know what you guys thought about it, though. Let your voice be heard in the comment box below. Where do you think we're going from here? Do you think this was MJF's last match in AEW? What do you think about the champions who retained? The new AEW World Champion being CM Punk. What do you think about the power couple winning the Owen Hart Tournament and becoming the King and Queen of Hearts? I guess that's something they're going forward. What's going to happen with Eddie Kingston and Bryan Danielson and the Blackpool Combat Club? Obviously, Wheeler Yuta is going to be on his way back to the States over the next week. So it's lots of sitting there to ponder going into AEW Dynamite. And of course, we're going to check out the media scrum, and I will be talking about the MJF stuff probably tomorrow. I'm going to wait to see what comes out of the media scrum after Double or Nothing, and then if there are any official statements released on Monday from AEW about, or maybe probably Tuesday because it's a holiday, if there are any official statements by AEW about the MJF situation. Is it overblown? Is he staying in the company? Was he granted a release? What's going on with there? Did Tony Khan give him more money? Who knows? So we'll see. But until then, if you like this video, hit the like button, subscribe button, and the notification bell. And be sure to share this video on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, wherever you talk about pro wrestling and sports entertainment. And I will see you guys here for more news, rumors, and reviews on the Rantin Review Pro Wrestling. Have a good day.